You know what's strange? Some of the most perceptive, emotionally intelligent people you'll ever meet didn't develop those abilities through books, classrooms, or years of meditation. They developed them because at some point in their lives, they had to. Their nervous system was trained not by choice, but by circumstances that required them to read rooms, predict moods, and think several steps ahead just to feel safe. Psychologists have started calling this traumatic intelligence. And if you've never heard of it before, that's exactly why this video matters. Here's the premise. Trauma doesn't only wound people. In many cases, it also sharpens them. Research in developmental psychology suggests that children who grow up in unpredictable or emotionally complex environments don't just survive those conditions. Their brains adapt to them in ways that produce rare, powerful cognitive abilities. Abilities that are invisible from the outside, but run incredibly deep on the inside. Here are 10 signs you've built it. Sign 1. The first sign is that you can read a room before anyone says a word. You walk into a space and something shifts in you, a quiet alertness. You pick up on tension in someone's posture, a micro-expression that crosses a face for less than a second. Most people miss it entirely. You don't. This isn't intuition in the mystical sense. It's pattern recognition. Your brain was trained from an early age to scan your environment for emotional data, because at some point, that scanning kept you safe. You learned to decode people not as a hobby, but as a necessity, and that skill never left. What was once survival is now perception most people simply don't have. Sign 2. The second sign is that you are deeply attuned to other people's needs, sometimes before they are. You notice when someone is struggling even when they say they're fine. You sense the shift in someone's energy before they've even had a chance to process it themselves. Psychologists refer to this as hyperempathy, and it almost always develops in people who grew up needing to track the emotional states of caregivers or family members very closely. You learn to feel others because your environment required it. The shadow side is that it can leave you exhausted, carrying everyone else's weight without anyone noticing you're doing it. But the depth of connection it allows you to build is something most people spend their whole lives searching for. Sign 3. Third, you are an exceptional problem solver, especially under pressure. When things fall apart around you, something in you goes calm and strategic. You don't freeze, you adapt. This is the nervous system doing something fascinating. Individuals who experienced early adversity often develop what researchers describe as stress inoculation. Their brains become calibrated to manage high-stakes situations because high-stakes situations were simply their normal. Crisis doesn't paralyze you the way it does others. While everyone else is panicking, you're already 3 steps into solving it. That's not luck. That's a brain that was built for exactly this. Sign 4. The fourth sign is that you think deeply about human behavior, almost compulsively. You analyze why people do what they do. You replay conversations. You search for meaning behind actions that others don't even register. This depth of psychological thinking isn't random. It was forged by years of trying to understand the unpredictable behavior of people around you. You became a student of human nature, because understanding people felt essential to your well-being. That same obsessive analysis that once felt like anxiety. In the right context, it makes you one of the sharpest readers of people in any room. Consider this for a moment. Everything you've heard so far, the perceptiveness, the empathy, the analytical mind, these are not weaknesses dressed up as strengths. They are genuine cognitive and emotional adaptations. And they tell a story about how remarkably responsive the human brain is to experience. The next 5 signs go even deeper into how traumatic intelligence shapes who you actually are. Sign 5. The fifth sign is that you have a highly developed sense of self-reliance. You don't wait for people to rescue you. You build solutions independently and quietly. And this self-sufficiency often surprises people who know you, but it makes complete sense developmentally. When the environment in childhood wasn't reliably supportive, your brain learned to internalize resourcefulness. Dependence felt risky, so competence became the default. The cost is that asking for help can feel almost foreign, even when you genuinely need it. Learning to let people in is one of the most powerful things someone with traumatic intelligence can do. Sign 6. Sixth, you feel things more intensely than the people around you seem to. Music hits differently. Injustice bothers you on a visceral level. A kind gesture from a stranger can genuinely move you. This emotional depth is a hallmark of traumatic intelligence. The amygdala, the part of the brain that processes emotional experience, becomes highly sensitized through repeated emotional activation in early life. The result is a person who doesn't just observe the world. They feel it at a frequency most people don't have access to. That intensity is not a flaw. It is the cost and the gift of a nervous system that was never allowed to be numb. Sign 7. The seventh sign is that you struggle to trust easily, but when you do trust, it's profound. Your threshold for trust is simply higher than average. This isn't cynicism. Cognitive psychologists call it adaptive skepticism. Your brain learned early that not all signals of safety were genuine, so it built filters. Those filters, while sometimes isolating, also mean that the connections you do form tend to be honest, meaningful, and unusually resilient. You don't do shallow. When you let someone in, you let them all the way in. That's rare. Sign 8. Eighth, you have a complex relationship with rest and stillness. Slowing down can feel uncomfortable, almost unsafe. When things are quiet, your mind tends to wander inward and not always gently. This is the nervous system doing what it was conditioned to do. Stay alert, stay ready. The irony is that the very intelligence trauma built requires active effort to unwind. Learning to rest, genuinely rest, for someone with traumatic intelligence is itself a kind of reclaiming. It's telling your brain, the threat has passed. You're allowed to be still now. Sign 9. The ninth sign is that you carry a quiet but unshakable sense of meaning. You don't move through life casually. You've looked closely at pain, both your own and others, and something in you has refused to let it be meaningless. Research on post-traumatic growth by psychologists Tedeschi and Calhoun suggests that a significant portion of people who navigate adversity emerge with a deeper philosophical clarity about what matters and why. You are in many ways someone who learned wisdom earlier than most, not because your life was easy, but because you paid attention to all of it. Sign 10. And the 10th sign, perhaps the most defining one, is that you are still here, still growing, still trying to understand yourself and others, still showing up even when it costs you. That's not nothing. That is everything. Most people with traumatic intelligence have spent their whole lives being told they're too much, too sensitive, too intense, too aware. What they were never told is that those things are the signs of a mind that grew under real pressure and came out exceptional on the other side. Traumatic intelligence isn't something to celebrate at the expense of acknowledging the difficulty that created it. The sharpness was real, but so was the cost. What psychology invites us to understand is that the human brain is not simply damaged by hardship. It is also, in very specific and measurable ways, transformed by it. The perceptiveness you carry, the empathy you extend, the way you analyze the world, these are not coincidences. They are the architecture of a mind that had to grow quickly and did. The question now isn't how you got here. The question is what you choose to do with the intelligence you built along the way. If this video felt like it was made for you, it was. Subscribe to Psychology Unlocked right now. Every week we go deep into the psychology of how people think, feel, and become who they are. This is the content that actually changes how you see yourself. I'll see you in the next one.